Good morning. I'm here today with a little hat for Cindy, which isn't one I've done before, but here she is. Here's my Molly in her double pom-pom hat there. I know it's still quite warm here, but we are going to be starting to think about winter soon. So it's a really quick and simple pattern to do. One thing I will notice though, I tried to work out what other dolls it fits. It actually does fit my Monster High. She's got a pair of sunglasses on her head, so that's nearly not helping at the moment. So it fits Frankie nicely there. So if you're a Monster High fan, you want to make some woolly hats for those, it will fit those. It doesn't fit, I know this isn't Barbie, my Barbie's too high up and I can't, and that means I've got to try and get the, I can't think of the word, steps upstairs. And at the moment I don't feel like doing that, so I've got my Mummy Liker here, who does have approximately the same size head, but as you can see it's a little bit big for her. So I'm going to try and mention during the pattern ways that you can use the same pattern for Barbie and it just comes out smaller. So but today it's Molly's turn to wear the hat because it was designed for Cindy, so it was based around her. So there she is. She just had a little photo shoot outside so we can take some photographs of it. So let's start with what we need. Actually, I will just mention, you know I said about the Mummy Liker? I think it's Liker, isn't it? Oh, it's pronounced. Now, you will see Molly's got some little pink bow shoes on. They're actually hairs. So they do actually have almost the same size feet, so that was quite nice because I needed a little pair of pumps and they were perfect, so I pinched her shoes. So let's pop Molly to one side. There we go, Molly. You can still stay on camera, you can watch what we're up to. Now the products I have used for this is actually a sock wool. It is a 4-ply. It's one that I got from my subscription even, box from Rosie's Moments. Absolutely love the yarns. I've had so many and I'm just not using them, so I thought I've got to start making sure I do. So it's got a cool variation. It changes really quickly. I don't know whether you can see that or not, but if you're doing doll stuff, a very quick change in the variation is great as far as variegated yarns are concerned. So it is a 4-ply yarn, so I'll pop that there. I have a pom-pom maker because we've got pom-poms, but if you do make pom-poms and use a different method, that's fine. This is just a clover one that I've got. Got my scissors, 3.0mm crochet hook, just a bog standard hook. And I have my darning needle, sewing up needle, and also my stitch marker on my little magnet. So I will move some of these out of the way and we're going to get started. It is quite quick, it is simple. Now I need something to put my yarn in because it's going to run away with itself. Let me just grab a bag and pop it down onto the floor. There we go. So it's in a bag now, so it's nice, keeps it nice and tidy. So I'm going to start same as I would with my amigurumi actually. I'm going to start with my slip knot. Let's move that little stitch marker a second and tighten it not too tight. Let me move that. Can you see that? It's swinging in the way, isn't it? That's my microphone and it's getting in the way. I'm going to move it so it might rattle a second. Excuse me. There, moved it to one side because otherwise it's on my arm while I'm trying to work. So we're going to start 2 chain into that first chain, and you see where I'm going to be going. This is why it was important not to make it too tight. I'm going to do 6 double crochets, remembering UK terms here. Oh, nearly lost it. I think this is going to get caught in Frankie's feet, so I'm going to have to move her as well. I'm so untidy. It's absolute chaos in my craft room at the moment because we're prepping for a cosplay convention this weekend, so everybody's costumes are getting ready. So I've got 1, 2, 3 there. So 4, 5 and 6. Lovely. We are now going to work into each of those 6 2 double crochets. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, just 2 more, 5 and 6. So we've done 2 in each of those 6, so they now do have 12, and you can see how we're getting that little circle started. Then we're going to do the same again. Yes, if you've done any of my amigurumi work, you'll see it's almost identical. And we're going to be doing 2 in each again. So we had 12, so we need to end up with 24. So that's 1. Remember, we're only doing 12 stitches though. That's 3, 4, 5. You can see how quick the variation in the yarn's working. I don't know if I just said 6 or 7. I'm going to say that's 7, 8. I'm going to have to count them at the end. Never mind. 8. That should be 10. That's 11. And hopefully that's 12. I'm going to recount again. I'm going to have to move Frankie completely. For some reason, I can almost be throwing my yarn over to where she is. She's over here. Where is she? There she is. But she's on a stand, and it's a stand it's catching on. So let me move her completely out of the way. Move over there, ladies. Right, so as I said, I lost count there, so I need to do a quick count. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 17, 18, 19, 20. I get 23. We'll have to go for one more then. I bet when I did that, what I thought was 6, it was actually a 5. So we're round now. Now, to stop me doing that again, I'm going to pop our stitch marker in. A little bit large, this stitch marker for Dolly Ones, but it's not too bad, so we can work on that. I'm going to do another increase round. Now, I know that doesn't look very big, but I'm just wondering where to stop for the smaller doll. I think we need at least one more set. Now in this next one, excuse me, a bit of a frog in my throat there. I'm going to do 2 in one stitch and then 1 in the next 2. Oh, there we go. It's quite soft to work with this yarn. It's quite nice. So 2 in 1, 1 in 2. I'm inclined to sort of say, like, it's almost like a little rhyme in my head as I'm doing it if I want to remember a pattern. So we've got, we'll keep dropping it. We've got 2 in 1, 1 in 2. So in my head, I'll be saying that to myself just to remind me what I am doing for the increases. It's not too bad when it's a 2 and a 2. But so 2 in 1, 1 in 2, 2 in 1, and 1 in 2. So remembering every time we do that 2 in the 1, that is an actual increase. I think we're nearly there. Look, we're nearly there. So we've got 2 in 1 and 1 in 2. So we've increased again. We're now going to do a simple double crochet round. Every single stitch within this round, which there should be now 32 of them, is going to have just 1 double crochet. But because I've got my stitch marker in, I don't have to worry about this. You could make hats for any dolls using this method. It's just about the increase point, because after you get to a maximum of stitches, you'll just do what I'm doing now, just 1 DC into each DC, or if they're trebles or whatever pattern you've decided, you keep it straight after a certain point. So it's only really the crown area that we're looking at. So as I say, I have 32 stitches now. I know for our Cindy here, I need 36. So we could sort of semi-guess that for Barbie, I really should have tried this out, but as I say, it's absolute chaos at the moment with the costumes, because both, as much as I will be going in costume, both my son and my husband are competing. And as always, they suddenly decide that all the costumes have got to change and they need this doing and that doing. And then they both go to work. And I get with little lists like, oh, can you look at this? Or, oh, can you get me this out? So unfortunately, I end up being involved in the chaos. My costume's ready. I'm always ready. Let's have a look. You can see that. Now I'm going to grab Molly here and I'm going to show you roughly. If that was on the crown of her head, you can see, because Cindy's do have quite large heads, it's not enough. But I suspect that is more than enough for our Barbie equivalent. Look, you see. So I actually think you'd probably get away with, for a Barbie, to stop at 32 and carry on down with the pattern straight. But I will carry on obviously with Molly here. So we're going to have another increased row to get up to those 36 stitches, which means we're going to have 2 in 1 and then 7 stitches. We're going to do that 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that was 1 time. So we need 2 in 1. So you're only going to get 4 increases on this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So that's our second one completed. It would if I don't drop my stitches. All right, so you can see I'm halfway around, so that makes sense. So I have 2 in the next one, and then I've got 1, 2. Ooh, it's not going to stay on my hook today. Get back on there and behave. Right, I think that was 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. So we have 1 more increase, so 2 stitches in 1. It's as simple as that for increasing, and then our straight 7. 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I must have timed that right, because that is 6. That is 7. So it looks like it's curling a little bit, but that doesn't matter, because now we're going to keep our rows straight and we're going to be doing 5 of them. That's all, just 5 rounds. Now obviously, as usual, I'm going to be talking. If you need to slow this down, by all means, please slow it down in your settings. I would advise you turn the volume off though, because I do sound a little bit silly. If you do slow me down, you can speed it up as well if you want to Google, and it looks even funnier. But you can actually slow this down if you don't want to work at this speed. Obviously, if you know what you're doing now for the next 5 rounds, you can just fast forward and try and get to the next bit. We are going to be dealing with some trebles today. We're also going to be dealing with a treble rib. Now, I have had people say to me, you cannot rib in crochet. I actually made a pair of sort of wrist warmers, fingerless gloves, whatever you want to call them, and it did have a rib on it, and somebody says, oh, have you knitted that part? And I'm like, no, it's crocheted, and people seem to be quite surprised. But yes, you can rib in a crochet. I think it's a little bit chunkier than if you were knitting, particularly for a doll. Obviously for a person that's not such a big deal. But for the doll it can look chunkier, but I don't mind, because this hat is sort of like a chunky winter hat. Right, again, because I'm talking, I have a piece of pen and paper next to me, and I'm going to mark down every time I've done a round. Look at that, you can tell I've been in the garden with her. That's off our silver birch at the moment. It is dropping them everywhere, which I'm sure some of the neighbours are probably cursing me at the moment. Very beautiful tray, very huge, but as soon as autumn starts to appear, it throws all these tiny weeny seeds out into everybody's gardens, and it's a bit of a pain really. Do love it to bits though. Getting a little large for the garden though, so I think we're going to have to get somebody out to give it a trim. Right, so we're on our second round now. Again, as I said, these are just double crochets, just 1 double crochet into every single stitch. Nice and simple. And again, remembering we are using UK terms here. If we're wanting US terms, obviously we will be a single crochet, but they are a double crochet called over here. Sounded like Yoda then, didn't I? Double crochet I called. Nearly round. So this is our second round. That was a really bad impression of Yoda. Oh dear. Right, so again, as I said, have a pen and paper, I'm marking it down. So that's 2 rounds. Can you see it's starting to curve into a basket? I actually don't want it to go that way. I want it to go that way to fit over her head. So we could do a little quick check. Let's sit her up on her bottom. She's got quite fluffy hair, this one, but you can see it is coming round. That's the other thing you've got to watch for. You may have a vintage doll, you may have a modern fashion doll, but depending on their hair, you may not be able to fit a hat on. She may have big ponytails, or she's got ears, or all sorts of different combinations. So that's something else you may need to adjust depending on who you're making it for. And as I said before, it's quite simple. Just do your actual increases to the size of the crown of the doll. You'd be surprised, it is actually smaller than you anticipate. I think you sort of look at her head and go, oh, you know, I've got to go all the way out there. But as soon as you start these just double crochet rounds, it widens again anyway, so be careful of that. You may need to have a little play at it. Also, depending on your tension, I am quite tight with my work, so if your sort of stitching is a little bit looser or even tighter again, you may struggle with the fit. So hopefully it won't take a couple of goes, but depending on which doll you're doing it for, you may need to have a couple of goes at it. Again, if you were using a different yarn, oh, let me just move that little hair, wherever that's come from, out of the way. I forgot what I was saying then. You can use, that was it, you can use a double knit yarn. Obviously you'd need a lot less stitches for the crown bit, and then it just carries on around and you get a very chunky hat. I will use double knit sometimes for my smart dolls because that works really nice because they're a lot bigger. But I think if your doll is smaller, if you can keep to a smaller or a finer yarn, should I say, it would be better. Right, that is our third, I think. So we've definitely got a little cap going off there. I can't see my timer actually. I think top to bottom, you could easily get this done in an hour at probably the slowest speed, if you were able to sit at it and concentrate. Obviously, if you can't, if you're in and out on doing little bits and bobs, it's going to take longer. After you've done your first one, the second or the third, or if you do any more, comes a lot quicker because you know what you're looking for then. I haven't actually done a pattern for this on my blog. What I will say though, if anybody desperately wants one, you can leave me a message on here and I will try and sort one out for you, because I can basically send them through for email for people, or if people do start requesting it, I will pop it on my blog. But because again the size differences I've mentioned, some dolls have different heads, we have different hairstyles, etc, etc. It's hard for me to say this is the pattern because it might not necessarily fit your doll. It is about learning to make adjustments for your doll. Now, one more round. See, look how pretty that is. It's almost like a heathery sort of effect it's coming out with. Matches Molly nicely today because she's in a completely homemade outfit here, apart from her shoes, of course. So I was really pleased with that. So she's all pretty in pink today. So we got this little pink pom-pom hat to go with her. Last round on this, and then we're going to be starting on those trebles. Now, I've done the trebles so far. If you want to keep doing a few extra rows, if you want to turn back perhaps, you can do a few more rows than I've got. But I have kept it nice and simple, and it's only going to be 1 round of trebles and 2 rounds of treble rib. That is it. So we're not far off. This takes the longest part, the bit that I'm doing at the moment, because obviously it's a lot finer, as it's again, it's that single stitch thing. You can see why people get confused between the American and the English, because if I say, oh, a single stitch, you're going to think a single crochet, and of course it's not. It's a double crochet. Oh, it's a double crochet over here. I can't say it's not because it is a single crochet elsewhere. Right, I'm round. and round. So I've got my little cap shape there. I'm going to take my stitch marker out now because it's sort of going to get in the way. And you can see where you start and stop with the treble. Now I'm not going to slip stitch into the next stitch. I'm going to go straight from there, but that's already a stitch. So I'm going to count that as one because I've just done a double crochet. So it's one stitch. Now, if I was doing a treble, I'd normally do 3 chain, wouldn't I? But because I'm going to count that as a stitch, I'm only going to do 2. Yeah. And then into each of these double crochets, I'm going to do a treble crochet. Again, remembering those terms, because it can make a massive difference. I know I've done patterns and I've started just naturally sort of using an English terminology for myself, and then I'm thinking, oh, this just isn't right, it's just not fitting, and then I've suddenly noticed another term in the pattern that's made me realise that it is actually an American pattern. So I've had to start again. I think the keywords to watch for, if you're in the UK and you get a pattern and it's an American one, I think the keywords to watch for is SC, because in an English pattern you will not see an SC abbreviation, because that is for single crochet. Some of the others will look similar to ours, but for us we do not have an SC over here. And see, the thing is, that doesn't really work on the American side then though, for you guys there, because you do have a DC in yours. I'm really getting things confused here, aren't I? Right, if you have any queries, give me a shout. Love to see some comments or any suggestions. I know I mentioned last time I'm going to be starting on a few Halloween-y things. I've already done my little bat if you like doing your amigurumi crochet, and I've got a little pumpkin. I'm going to do a pumpkin chocolate orange cover, if that makes sense. That'd be a nice treat, a trick with a treat on it. No, the other way around. If you could say the pumpkin's a trick, I don't know. The trick is you're hiding the chocolate orange under the pumpkin. All right, we're nearly round. There we go. So that is just a round of trebles. Now this is where our treble rib is going to come in. If you've not done this, you may see on a pattern it'll be a front or a back post treble. Now the abbreviation, the abbreviation for that one's a little bit weird. Every pattern will have it different, so always double check where it says abbreviation to read what it means, because it could mean something different. So I'm going to slip stitch into the top of what would have been the 3. I did 2 there, didn't I? So that's a slip stitch. So this time I will start with 3 chain, because it's still a treble round, it's just a treble rib. Now you can see this is your first post here. Yeah, my first post, I'm going to wrap my yarn as if I'm doing a treble, because I am, and I'm going to push it in the front and round the back of that post. I will grab my yarn and pull it round and then carry on as a treble. The next one, I'm going to wrap the yarn, and instead of going in from the front this time, I'm going to come up from the back and go round the next post. So you can see it goes to the back, and I pull it through and do it as a treble. So again, round because it is a treble, in from the front, around its back, pull it through, yarn round, in from the back this time, round the front. That one's the harder one to pull it through because you do have a tendency to catch the stitch. So round the hook, in from the front, around the back of the post, grab it and pull it through. Now I'm going to try and move a little closer without blurring. It might blur to start with. I'm hoping that's okay. All right, so we'll do that again. So round, in from the back, around the front, grab the yarn, pull it through. That one will take a bit of practice if you've not done it before. Round the hook, in from the front, around the back, and pull it through. So you're not actually going in a stitch, you're going around these individual posts. You'll also see quick enough if you've gone wrong, so don't worry whether you've gone, oh, was that front, was that back? So next one, from the back around the front of the post, grab it, might take a bit of wiggle, that's it. So grab front, round the back, pull it through. I'm going to speed up a little bit now. So round from the back, round the front. So basically one of them you're going in from the front and round it, and the second one you're going in from the back and around it. So front, back, front, back. And as long as you're alternating like that, you are going to start to get a rib effect. So we're not far around. So remember, we've not got, oh look, can you see I've caught it there? So in, if in doubt, I sort of like almost pinch this bit. You see how I'm pulling it to one side, so when I pull that through it shouldn't catch. That's the theory. You will find your own method of doing that. Are we round? You have to be careful, because if you carry on going round you end up in a spiral and you'll lose the pattern, and you don't want to be working in a spiral at this point. These are still rounds, but they're not like an amigurumi spiral round. These are straight rounds. So I'm going to speed up a little bit. When I get to the next round I will explain again, and hopefully you can do it then. You might already know how to do these, so obviously you'll be able to skip past, because as I said, it was just one row of rib of treble. Repeat that again to make sure I get it right. It was one round of trebles and just 2 rounds of treble ribs. That round of trebles gets you into position ready to do your rib, that's why, so you do need that. Nearly there. I'll show you how the rib's working in a second. I'm staying in the centre, aren't I? I'm getting better at that. It's really not easy to sort of do it because I'm inclined to pull my work towards me. I've tried to think of different angles, but it doesn't work. So I'm round. So remember those 3 chain? I've gone into the top of them and I've done a slip stitch. So you can see how it's getting sort of like bobbly. It just looks sort of bobbly at the moment rather than anything else. But you can see one sticks up and one sticks down. So up, down, up. The one that sticks up is the one we're going to go around the back of. So it's quite easy to see, but I'll show you. So we've got 1, 2 and 3, because that's our starting chain there. And you see this first one, you see how you get a little line that comes to the front, so it shows it's quite easy to tuck behind that one. No, it's easy. So that's a behind. The next one is behind, because you can see it's hiding. You see it's hiding behind these other stitches, so it's a behind one. If you do it wrong, as I say, you'll see quick enough. So this one's sticking up, so it's really easy to get into that one, so it's a front one. And behind, remembering to wrap the yarn every time. So we go from the back, we come from the front. The front ones are always easier. From the back and from the front. Try not to make it too loose, because it's very easy to do so. The rib will also pinch it hat into the doll a little bit as well, so it's always a good way of doing it. Add a little rib, it just tightens it up a bit. Looks like an egg cosy at the moment. This one, nearly round. Remember, this is the last round apart from our finishing round, but this is the last rib round. So it was quite quick. So remember, I'm taking a lot longer because I'm talking to you, I'm stopping and starting and things like that. So if you were just sat nice and quiet, I think you could get this done quite quickly. But because I haven't got my stitch marker in, I still don't need to worry, because look, it sticks up. Can you see how it sticks up where we started? So when you get to there, you know you've done. So we've not got many more stitches to do. There's the front one. It's weird because I'm saying front, but I suppose I'm going behind the stitch, aren't I? Whereas that one comes from behind. I think that's how I'm going to describe it. In from the front and round. The second one in from the back and round. And we're almost there. I'm going to actually finish this off with one more round of just double crochets. I just think it neatens the edge, because as I was mentioning about the rib can look a little bit looser. Even though it's weird, it pulls it in because it's a rib, but it sort of looks looser as well. Are we on my last one? Yeah, last stitch. I need to slip stitch join. Is that top of that first one? Look, it pulls across, so be careful there, but it is there. Turn it up a little bit and slip stitch, one chain, because I'm going to be doing one double crochet into every single one, and then I've finished. Apart from the pom-poms, we have our Cindy's hat. I think Cindy hats, apart from my Smartdoll hats, are the ones I make more than anything else. I do think they look cute in the hats. And also I'm very pleased to say, as I say, it does fit the Monster High as well. So the only problem with the Monster High is quite often there's an ear issue there, because they have ears on top of the head depending on sort of what animal they are. Or not animal, because obviously Frankie's not an animal. I have a few Monster High. I don't know much about them, to be perfectly honest. I know the bits about the ones I've got, but there's so many different ones and so much to know. Like with the doll collecting world, full stop, there's so many different variations on things, and you know, I certainly don't claim to be any sort of expert in that field. It's absolutely fascinating, and I do love it when people put comments on and tell me, you know, what a doll is, or if they've got a suggestion for the head size of another doll or anything like that. It's all good. Are we round yet? Nearly. This round seems to be taking longer than the others. I think as soon as you go back to a double crochet, it does feel smaller. So you feel like you've got more to do. It's harder to tell where you started as well. I think I'm there actually. I think it's just 2 more and 2, and then I'm just going to do a little slip stitch, and I'm going to find my scissors. There they are. Trim it off and tighten it up. Now this is the moment of truth. Does it fit Molly's head? Yeah. So you could leave it at that. You just got a little beanie there to put on, or as I said with mine, I did a double pom-pom. This is quite a small pom-pom. If you did a bigger one, you could just do a big central one, which I do quite often do. But I'd recently done this pattern for my Smartdoll, so I wanted to do one for Cindy as well. Now, I'm going to use my pom-pom maker. I think I've mentioned it, I know I've mentioned it in one of my other videos on using this. Some people like them, some people hate them. It's just personal choice. But basically, I've opened it up, kept it together, and I'm going to wrap my yarn around this bit, but this little bit here. So it's going to go over there, and I'm just going to wrap and wrap and wrap and wrap. It doesn't take long. Obviously with a 4-ply yarn it takes a little bit longer because it's thinner. I mean, if you were doing a double knit one, this would take seconds on this size pom-pom. They do different sizes for this particular type of pom-pom maker, so keep an eye out. There are a few. I've got a couple of different ones. I think I prefer this one though out of them all because it holds my yarn a little bit better. So I'm just wrapping, 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 wrapping until that middle bit there is almost flat. So I think that might do. I'm going to close that side up, trim my yarn. You see, it holds it nicely. With some of the others I've had, it doesn't do that. and you're having to try and hold it all the time. It's not very comfortable. Right, so round and round and round again. This is a number 20, it says on here. I am presuming that means it comes out 20 millimeters when finished. It looks a bit smaller than 20 millimeters to me, looking at the pom-poms, but saying that I have trimmed it slightly, so there is a chance it could be actual measure is 20. I think that's maybe a couple more. A nice chunky pom-pom. And that's about it. If you want to be really strict with your pom-poms, count how many times you wrap it round, and then you're going to 100% make sure that they're both the same size. So I've closed it up, as you can see, and I'm taking my scissors. Now I hold this end that lifts up, because if I try cutting from that end it lifts it. So I'm holding that end and I'm snipping, because there's a little ridge. You can see the little ridge there. It means you can get your scissors into there. So I'm going to turn it over, hold the end that's loose, slide into that groove, and off I go. There we go. Now obviously I need to hold this pom-pom together. Depending on what yarn you are using, if you have a yarn that has a tendency to break very easily, I would recommend maybe you use an embroidery thread or something like that. This is actually really strong. To say it's a 4-ply, it is strong. So I'm taking it, pushing it in that groove, turning it over. You see it's just fitting into the groove again. You see where it's slotted in. Oh, keep still. And I'm just tying a nice tight knot. Check the strength of your yarn before you do that, because there's nothing more disappointing when you're trying to make it, you think you're nearly there, you pull this tight and it snaps, and then you've got to mess about again. So I'm just going to do another set of knots on the other side of it, because I'm just always worried about things coming undone. Oh, can't tie a knot now. And there we go. So those are my long strands. I want them that long because I'm going to use them for sewing in. And this is the magic part. We open it up and we pull one side and the other side, and we're left with a lovely little pom-pom with some bits sticking out, but that's because that's what I did at the beginning. Easy enough done. Little trim, little trim. If your pom-poms come out too big or it's not the shape you want, you just trim it down, makes a mess, but it only takes seconds. Now for actually attaching the pom-pom, I've not sewn my ends in. I should have sewn my ends in, but I just wanted to show you this. I have my nice sharp wool needle. As you know, if you've been watching before, I don't like the clumpy ones, not when you're doing doll things. You need one with a tight sharp point even. I got distracted then because I looked at my hands and I noticed that there was some silver. Where? Oh yeah, look, there's some silver paint there. Like I say, it's going to be like that. My hands are usually ruined on a build up to a convention, because like I say, we're sticking, we're gluing, we're painting, we're varnishing, everything. Right, so I'm going to stand her up. I want my pom-poms obviously equal sides of her head. So a quick and easy way of doing that is I've just taken one of those strands and I've pulled it through. I am then lay a bit down with those other strands. I'm just going to tie a knot. Tie it nice and tight. I'm going to tie it a few times because I don't want it coming off. And then we can just trim these to the length of this pom-pom, and it blends in. Look, totally blends in. And there's no need to mess about. Oh, I could do a bit of trimming there. Let's say if there's any odd bits sticking out, you can just trim them, can't you? But there's no need to sew inside now because it's there. And just because I trimmed them off, they've been double and triple knotted, so they're not going anywhere. They just match in with the pom-pom, so you don't have to mess about. Up to now, I have always sewn in, but I discovered this last night actually when I was doing it, and I'm like, well, that's so much simpler, because there's nothing worse than having to sew ends in, although I've got to sew those two in. So you can see she's got a pom-pom we make a pom-pom for the other side as well, so I'll pop this one back on because this is the finished one. If there's any of you that do watch the video but don't particularly crochet, just want to have a nosy what I'm doing but still want to buy these sort of items, obviously these are things that I do either on my Etsy or for commission. If people say they see this hat and they're like, oh, I'd like it in a plain blue or something, those are things I can accommodate for as well. So hopefully you enjoyed that video. Please like, subscribe and share. And again, if you want notifications of any of my work that I'm doing, make sure you press the little bell in the corner as well. I'm going to comment on one more thing, which has got absolutely nothing to do with this. I have had a parcel. I'm hoping I'm going to get this without knocking everything over. I'm reaching across. Ah, you're wobbling, aren't you? Yes. Oh, we're still wobbling. Keep still, keep still. Right. I have a parcel. That will give you a clue. Pull it back. Got my labels on there. It is a Danny Chew parcel. It is my Gaia Boss Cortex to build, which I will be doing soon. It is actually my birthday present, and it's not my birthday yet. So I am being good. I do want it out, but I am being good, and I'm going to try and keep to that. I might do a little countdown or something. That was the unfortunate bit again. Charge! Don't like that. So I had to get her out of customs. I had to rescue her and pay my fees. It wasn't too bad actually for once, but even so it still annoys me a little bit that you do have to pay them. So hopefully you're going to see me doing that. Ooh, I don't know whether I'm going to regret it or not. I've been watching other people's videos. It does look hard. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. So again, hope to hear some comments. Please let me know if you've made one or if it succeeded or there was any issues. Just give me a shout. That's what I'm here for, to hopefully help you sort of do a few more little items. But fingers crossed it'll fit nicely, and I hope to see you soon. And it might, no, I don't think it will be. No, there'll probably be a couple of other videos, and then you're going to get to see old Gaia Smart Doll over there, so she can join my other Smart Doll girls. So, see you soon. Bye.